Hello, the hat we're going to be making today is one of my favourite pieces of kit ever. It's so warm. Now, the trapper hat was used by 20th century trappers in North America, right from the Appalachian Mountains right into Canada, for a long period of time. Later on, in World War I, they were developed for aviators to use, and in World War II, when the planes went to higher altitude, they were a must for every pilot. Similar designs of the hat are used throughout the world now, made out of fur, sheepskin and other warm materials. Canada, Russia, it would be called a ushanka. In Finland, they make them out of deerskin, and they're just a must-have hat for cold conditions. I've come up with a way of making this hat that is easy to do. It's took me a while to work it out. I've used some old Viking techniques, and I've made some patterns for you to follow. The first thing we're going to do is make the patterns. Once you've got them, don't throw them away, because you're going to need them for future projects we'll be doing together. Of course, as you can imagine, this is the hat we would be using on our expeditions to Finland and Sweden and other Arctic regions. The hats we normally use are made out of fur, but you can quite easily use wool. It's a warm material, wool. It's warm when it's wet. Even when it's soaking wet, it can be warm. Modern materials just don't cut it. Plus, the ear flaps that fold down protect your ears from the wind and the cold. One of the most important things to keep warm in cold conditions is your ears. Your fingers, your nose, your ears. The pattern that we're going to be using today, you'll be able to make a variety of hats using the same techniques. So, like I said before, keep hold of your patterns. They will come in handy for all sorts of stuff. So you can make these out of anything. Any old wool garments you've had, anything like that. You can make them out of sheepskin. If you can go to a charity shop and get a sheepskin coat, use that. If you've got any furs or pelts, use that. So, the basic hat itself, it consists of only a few components. You've got the ear flaps and the neck protector. You have this bit at the front that can be folded down to protect your eyes from the snow. And also when you're sleeping, you can lower it down over your eyes to help you sleep like a face mask. We have the fasteners at the top, which we'll be making. And we have lined it with linen. Now I've used linen because linen is better than cotton, especially in the cold. Now, cotton's great, but linen is better. Everybody used to make underwear out of linen years ago. The pattern we're going to be using to make the outside of a hat, keep it, because you'll be making the lining out of the same pattern at the same time. So for the patterns, what I suggest you do is get some A4 card or paper and sellotape two sections together, so that you've got the length. Now we're going to start off with the ear flaps, okay? So what you want to do is get a piece of card or paper, measure out 20 inches long by 8 inches wide. Cut it out. Then what we're going to do, we're going to fold it directly in half, the big piece of card. And we're going to measure from the centre 2.5 inches and cut into the card 2.5 inches in the centre. If you want to find the centre of that, just fold the card in half like so. You see? So imagine this is one big piece of card at the moment, ignore the curves. So fold the card in half like that, find the centre, measure in, about 2.5 inches and cut down there. And then you want to cut right up here, like so. If you do it when it's in half, it would cut it out for you and you'd be left with this section cut out. Then get something like a pint pot, you know, and you can draw a curve on the edge of your corner, like so. You know, if I was to turn this pint pot the other way around, it would be the right size, but it's full of banana milkshake and I don't want to spill it everywhere. But you get the gist. You put a curve in and cut that out. And this forms the ear flaps and the neck protector. Right. Next, you're going to get another piece of paper or card and you want it to be 8 inches by 5 inches. So 8 inches long by 5 inches wide. Cut it out, do a similar thing with a pint pot maybe or a small plate or something like that. Cut it out. This forms the front of a hat. You know, the bit that flaps down here, as you can see. This is probably the most complicated bit to cut out, but I've come up with a way that we can do it easily. So, first of all, cut out your card or paper, 26.5 inches long. Get the tape measure. So 26.5 inches long. And you want it 8 inches wide, okay? Once you've cut out your piece of paper or card, you want to fold it directly in half like so. So imagine this is one big piece of card, and then you want to fold it again and crease it. And what you're going to be left with is 4 sections, like that. Now, this is a complicated bit. Well, it's not complicated, just turn it round. What you want to do then is fold over just one end of a section. And then with a dinner plate, with a dinner plate, trying to make this as easy as possible, measure down from the top, 3.5 inches, okay? So imagine this is the top of the paper of a card. From here, measure down 3.5 inches, okay, to this line here. One of these lines is, yeah, you have 4 sections. So measure down 3.5 inches. Then from this point to this point what you've measured to, put a dinner plate, like so. Draw a line, cut it out, and then you'll be left with this shape here, like an arch. Then simply fold to your next section, draw around it, fold to your next section, draw around it, fold to your next section, draw around it, and you will cut all these sections out. I think that's the easiest way of explaining it, but if you find it difficult, just leave a message in the comments so I can have some feedback on that. But I think you would get that, hopefully. So now take your material, whatever you're going to be using, either sheepskin or in this case it's this really nice wool I picked up from a charity shop, and put your pattern on the top. Just find my chalk. Where have I put my chalk? Okay, I found my chalk now. Sorry about that. Right. So just draw around like so with your chalk. If it's a light coloured wool you're using or fabric, obviously you could use a black marker pen or a felt tip or something like that, something that would stand out. So just draw around your pattern like so. And then cut it out. So as you can see here, I'm using up the least amount of fabric as possible. I'm fitting it into the gaps. So I'm going to draw around this with chalk, draw around this one with chalk, cut it out. For the wool I'm using, the width is 17.25 inches wide, and the length I've got is roughly, get hold of that, 41 inches roughly. So yeah, you'd get away with using a piece of material 17¼ inches wide by about 27 inches long, and you have more than enough. It's not a lot of fabric really when you think about it. Just fold this over, it's only that amount of fabric. So you could use the back of an old coat maybe to make your hat with. You've got everything cut out now. Of course, this section here, forming the main part of the hat, repeat again on whatever lining you want to use. Again, don't use cotton. Cotton kills. Cotton kills in the Arctic. Once it's wet, it stays wet and it stays cold. Linen's better, but I would suggest using something like a merino wool, something soft against your skin. You know, a microfiber towel, even a synthetic microfiber towel would work for the same job. But with it being wool, you want to line it because it's just a bit itchy on the forehead. I will explain this part of the pattern later, because we'll do that on the leather working section when we'll be making this leather fastener, and we'll be using press studs, 3 press studs altogether. But yeah, we'll do this later on when we're doing this. Magic. Okay, we're going to stitch the main body of the hat together first. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so we've got all these sections here. What we're going to do is just fold the first one over on itself like so, and we're going to stitch from the bottom here up into the top. Okay, let's just sort this machine out. Right, make sure it's lined up. Now we've done that, we're going to take this next section to here, like so. Can you see how it's bunching together? So line this section up now. I'll turn it round. I love sewing with wool actually, it's really nice. Slides a bit better than some other fabrics on the sewing machine. Let's just line that up now. I'll do. There we go. Just turn it round and go back on itself so that your stitching doesn't come undone. And as you can see now, we are left with, you know, it's starting to form the shape of a hat now, isn't it? Now don't sew this next section to this section because you end up with a child-size hat, okay? So from the other end, you want to sew this section together. Can you see how it's forming now? Get that stitched up. I could fast forward this, but you know, it's nice to see it working. It doesn't take long to make this hat at all, really. So the stage we're going to be at in a minute is going to be called the Pope stage. I'll show you why in a minute it's called the Pope stage. Again, go back on yourself. If you've not seen any of my other videos on making stuff, check them out, because it's kind of handy for you to do so, because we'll be building projects sort of at a beginner's level, and as we go on through the series, we'll be going on to more complicated things like blanket coats and stuff like that. So it's handy for you to watch them all, really. And of course, please subscribe, because then you can find me. You know, I've got a lot more projects coming, good projects, for us all. Right, nearly done. Of course, if you don't have a sewing machine, like I say in other videos, you're going to have to do this by hand. But that's all right. I used to do everything by hand before I got this. My friend Dave Delaney gave me this sewing machine, and it's one of the best things I own. Changed my life. Before I had this, I was making everything from tents, you know, clothing and stuff by hand. It's a good skill to have, to do it by hand, but this just saves a lot of time. And with working full time as well, you don't want to be spending it sewing by hand all the time, unless you enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy doing it. Right, let's see what this looks like now. Yeah, so this is why it's called the Pope stage, you know. It looks a bit silly at the moment, but you can actually use this stage we're at now to make a Viking hat simply by turning it the right way around. And then if you was just to fold up the lower edge of it, like so, you've got a Viking hat already, you know. Like I said, you can make all sorts of hats from this part of the process. I mean, if you wanted to, you could just put a peak on it. I mean, I don't know how it would look, but you know, there's loads of options with it. Yeah, you can use this technique as well for making pouches if you wanted to. You know, you can put a drawstring in the top of that and make yourself a little bag, you know, like that. Just fold it over and maybe put some eyelets in it, or a drawstring through the crease at the top, and run a drawstring through. And yeah, you'd have a bag. But yeah, we're at the Pope stage at the moment. Yeah, so what we're going to do now we've got this Pope hat on, we're going to fold up the inside at the bottom, inside on itself, just so it covers the top of your ears, because even when you've got the ear flaps up on the trapper hat, you want your ears covered at the top, because sometimes you don't want to have your flaps down all the time. But yeah, find out where that is roughly, pinch it, and then you can see. You might have to do a few adjustments just to get it right. I think there, we're looking about 1 inch on the hem. So yeah, bring it in on itself, about 1 inch. And we'll show you how to stitch that up, as you can see. Maybe run some chalk along the edge once you've folded it, so that you can keep to your line. Might be a good idea. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to make myself a sausage butty. This is black pudding and pork. Bloody starving. Right, I'll get this hat hemmed up whilst the sausages are cooking. Like I said, about 1 inch in. And just go all the way around. Like I said before, you can mark it with chalk. I kind of don't bother. Of course, if you make a mistake, you know, you sew it up. You can pick the stitching again and go back and have another go at it. It's not a problem. I don't mind getting a bit of oil on my cooker, because it kind of protects it, you know. Spill oil on cast iron, it's only going to protect it. Turn it over. There we go. Oh, they're looking good. Smells good as well. Right, I'll give this a test on my head. Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's quite baggy at the moment, but the reason for that is once you put the lining in and all the other components, it just go tighter, you know. So one of the key elements that we need to do, one of the crucial parts, is the crease where it's sewn right down to the bottom at the back there. We need to make sure it's at the back of the head when we put it together, because if it's at the front of the head, the crease would just rub on your forehead and it would make a mark, you know. Of course, having no hair, I wear a lot of hats. I love hats. I'm never out of hats, to be honest. Right, okay. So we've got to that stage now. The next thing we need to do is we need to hem all the way around the ear flap section and the front flap section. I'll get that hemmed up now. Sausages. Take it off the heat for a little bit, I think. I think it's getting a bit too warm. Or put the hot plate back. And that will cool it down a little bit, having the hot plate back on. You can really speed things up with a bit of practice with these. Singer do an electric version of the old-fashioned sewing machine. It has a belt driven from here to a motor. Also used to have foot-operated treadles that you would kind of like use. But I haven't got room in my house for that. In case you're wondering, my house is 200 years old. I collected antiques for a long, long time, mainly from car boot sales. I grew up around antiques at home. My grandmother collected antiques. I never knew her, but my dad had a lot of her antiques in their house when I lived there. I just love them. They just tell a story, you know? So when you come into the corners of these curved bits, I'll just get the camera closer actually and show you. Yeah, so when you come into these curved bits at the corners, you have to kind of bunch it in on itself and just take your time, you know, making small adjustments as you go. Otherwise it won't work. Remember to keep turning. And then obviously when you get on the straight bit again, you can speed it up a little bit. Now this type of wool doesn't really fray. Once I cut it, it's really tightly woven, so I don't really need to double hem it. Depending on the fabric that you're using, you might have to hem it once and then go over again like that, just so it doesn't fray. But you know yourself when you start picking at it when you cut it. Another option is to put some ribbon round the edging, or some leather, cut some leather strips and go around all the edges of all your work. That looks quite nice. So we're coming up to this curve again. It's fiddly, but just bunch it in. You know, try and follow the lines. It's actually looking quite neat. I've done a better job on this one than I did on the prototype I made. I made the other prototype the other night because I wanted to make sure I got it right for you. You know, I had to work out all the sizing. You know, once I've got the pattern now, I could mass produce these, I suppose. But yeah, it's working. There we go. Now just do the same now to your ear flaps. Yeah, that worked out quite well actually. I have to put my head to it. Okay. Right, now these are all hemmed up now, the front piece and the ear flaps, we're going to fit it to the hat itself. So what you need to do is find the back crease. This is a part that goes to the back of your head. Okay? And then we're going to take this ear flap and we're going to find the centre here. So just fold it in half, pinch it, hold the pinch where this crease is. And then all you're going to do is stitch it so that this part is inside out. The main body on the part of a hat, is the right way around. And we're going to go all the way around from this centre piece. We'll get that stitched on. This bit's a little bit fiddly, but you do it. If you want, start sewing not directly on the crease because it's quite thick there. Just sew to one side of it. If you want to be really neat, follow the stitching you've done on your seam. Go through the same stitching. Also, you can line it up to the stitching you've already got on the hat. It's a bit tight. Get it in. There we go. Line it up. Now I'm going to go back on myself now. And when I go back on myself this time, I'm going to go over this back piece that joins the hat together. You know, your last section, the seam. I'm just going to go right over that. Has it done it? Yeah. And just continue stitching now right to the end. Again, checking as you go, making sure it's in line. Now we're coming to the end, give extra attention, put a few more extra lines in. I've run out of thread again, so I'm going to have to quickly wind this back on. Now, I know you've probably seen this in other videos, but in case no one else has seen it, I think it's important to show you how this works. So you take the thread off the top, you feed it to this mechanism here, put this little bobbin in, hook it up to these levers, tighten it, disconnect this gear system here, push it on with your thumb so the little wheel hits a big wheel, and you keep winding. Like so. And you keep going until the bobbin is full, you know, the spool, until that's full up. And once it's full up, we cut it off, put it back in this thing here that's like a bullet, it's like a shuttle, and then you're good to go again. Always stop it where you started from. Cut it off, disconnect this bit, loosen off this gear again here, and then take it out, put it inside this shuttle. There's a little groove in it. Run the thread to the bottom and it should hook like that. And then we'll put it back inside. Push the thread inside underneath, like so. Put the top plate back on and then rethread your needle. What I failed to notice is I run out of thread a long time ago. I was looking at the stitching that I was doing and just thinking it was running fine, but it actually run out a long time ago. So it wasn't even stitched to the hat, so I'm gonna have to begin again. So never mind, we all make mistakes. Well, especially me. Put that bit underneath there like that. That's it. Got a bit of catching up to do, I think. It's the wife's birthday today, so I've got to get this video done really before she gets back, because she'll want to go out or something like that, and I want to take her out, of course. But I'm not going to rush it because we need to make sure we can do everything properly. Flaps on, as you can see. Now what we've got to do is find the front piece and stitch this on here like so, but we're going to be stitching it inside out to the top, yeah, so keep your nice edge against your forehead, and we're going to find the distance between the end of the flaps, yeah, and kind of line it up so it's equal, like so. And we're going to stitch it on like that. So just double check it's all lined up. You know, there's no point making mistakes if we can help it. If you want to make sure it's definitely going to be central, start from the middle. Right, get this underneath here. Line it up. This is a fiddly a bit. There we go. Drop that in there. That's not the right place. Just make some adjustments. That's where I want to be there. See, that's too close to there now, so straighten out the hat. Kind of pull it back a little bit so it looks in line. That's looking good. Get that stitched up, double check it's right, yep. If you want to, you can put a double stitch in this. You know, put a double line of stitching in it to reinforce it. There we go. So now we're at the stage now where we can add this top fastener. We'll make that in a minute. But first, we're going to put some press studs in here. Like so. You can get press studs from Amazon in kits. They're quite cheap. I suggest getting brass. Brass looks better.
But it's up to you. You can get colourful ones if you like. Depends if you want to be fashionable or not. But for a traditional hat like this, I suggest brass. Also, it won't rust. Right, just get the press studs out. So we'll put the front part of the press studs on first, which is this part here. As you can see, we're going to go like that. So what I need to do is punch a hole either side for it to go through. So we'll put this punch on and give it a smack. And then we'll drop the press stud through the hole like so. Get your other one. I mean, you can use a tape measure to line them up, but I'm okay, I think, with my eye, which is there. Just put the press stud, punch there, give that a smack, and we'll put that one through, double check. Yeah, that looks okay. Turn it around the other way, and then we get this kind of sways block. It has a nipple end on one side for the other side of a press stud and this flat bit. And just pop the press stud on the flat bit. And then we take this part, put it over the top, the female over male. And then we have this device here, this punch we put in the central hole and give it a smack. Just make sure it's tight. Same on the other side. I just forgot to put this top piece on. I got carried away doing the video. I forgot to put it on, so I had to take it back out again. You know, anyway. Again, check it's secure. That's good. Now what we're going to do, we're going to fold it up like so. And just find out where the other one needs to go. A good idea is to get your punch and just pop it where your finger is so you're dead lined up. That's it. Give that a smack. And then what we're going to do, we're going to get the male part of this smaller part, these smaller press studs. Push that in. Get the sways block with this nipple bit. Sit it on in the groove, like so. And then we have this top section that slips over the top. Now we move to this punch, which has got a hole in the centre, like a groove. Put that on top, just check that's right. Does it feel right? Yeah. Give it a smack. And we're literally good to go. Repeat the process on the other side. Right, so we need to cut out the leather for the fasteners here. So we're going to make a template, and then once the template's made, you can draw around leather. You can use shoes, leather off old handbags, you know, things like that. To make the template, we're going to have to use a piece of paper or card that's 7.5 inches long by 1.25 inches wide, okay? So, measure it out. I'm going to use my old template as a guide, but obviously you have to measure this. Just mark it like that, line it up. It doesn't have to be exactly to these measurements, this fastener. And what we do, get that, cut it out. Now you have it cut out, fold it in half, long ways, best you can. And then what we're going to do, we're going to find something to draw around. that's going to be like this shape, if you know what I mean. You can do it by hand. We'll do it by hand and see what it looks like. So give it a curve there, come in slightly there and bend it out. Once you've done that, leave it folded in half and cut it out. That way it's equal both sides. This just gives it a bit more interest, makes it look a bit more professional. Of course, you can just use string to tie it together at the top if you want to. Now we should be left with a nice looking shape, like so. Fold it in half again on the long ways, once it's flattened out, and get your pen and just draw around the shape, like so. And then a good idea is to fold it in half again, long ways, like that. This way, it's perfect when you unravel it. Cut it out, like so. There you have a nice shape. Put it on top of your leather. I'm going to use this part of the leather because it's the shortest bit here. If I use this bit, I'm going to be wasting some, so use this natural curve at the end to do it. Get yourself a pen and draw around your pattern. So now you've done that, fold it in half, like so, pinch it, get your pen and just mark on the inside. Then just draw a line where you've cut, where you want to cut it. Okay, and then just cut it in half. Now what we're going to do is add some press studs in this part here. So punch a hole, put your press studs in. So about central. That looks good. Just mark it. Just put a little bit of pen just to double check it's central. Yeah, that looks good. To give it another whack because it's leather, it takes a bit more going through. Now put it on top of your other one, line it up. Just get the tip of your pen through the hole. Give it a wiggle. You see it's not quite lined up properly there, but I'll just move the punch to the side slightly. Give it a smack. And again. So it goes like that. You want this part here going up through the bottom. That's the wrong piece. Where's my little pieces? Have I got any left? Aha, I found some. Put that on like that. Get the other tool again over the top. There we go. Hope the neighbours don't mind. There you have your fasteners. Now what we're going to do is make a nice curve on this part here. We're just going to curve it round. We find something to draw around maybe. Maybe just use this. Yeah, so just give it a nice curve. Do the same both sides, of course. And then cut it out. And then we're going to get an awl and we're going to put some stitch holes in it. You okay, Hannah?
I'm sorry?
Are you okay?
Go to George, yeah.
You going picking George up? Okay, sweetheart.
We're going to have one to eat.
It's up to you. It's your birthday. Whatever you want to do. Right. So my all's seen better days. I have got better ones somewhere, but I just don't know where they are at the moment. So what we're going to do now is separate the two fasteners. And you can use one of these tools, which kind of gives you the right distance for your stitching away from the leather. You can adjust them. And you can run it along like this to put a mark in, if you want to. You know, you can follow the curve round like that. And it just puts a mark in. But you don't really need to do that. So you just start putting holes all the way around the line. Try and keep them the right distance apart so it looks neat. So just go all the way around and repeat the process on this one as well. So now I've gone all the way around, I can push right through the awl back through the same holes to make sure that it's all gone through properly. And then once we've done that, obviously thread your needle. And then what we're going to do is stitch it to the top of the ear flaps. So find the middle of a flap by folding it in half, put it in the centre of a fold, and then stitch this top edge first by hand along this stitching that's already on the flap, and continue stitching all the way around. Now you've done that, you've stitched all the way around, it's on securely, you're pretty much complete apart from the lining. Now I've run out of time today because her wife's got back from work and it's her birthday, like I said, so I've got to do stuff with Hannah. But to do the lining is very simple. Just use your big pattern, what you used for the main part of your hat. Cut out your linen or whatever lining you want to do. Stitch it up in exactly the same way you did at the first part of the video. And then you turn it inside out so that the rough edge is on the inside of the hat, pointing this way. This is the neat edge on the inside, sorry. And push it in. Hem it all the way around as well before you put it in. And then simply undo your ear flaps and your front flap and stitch it all the way along like so. Now it might ruffle up a little bit because you might start running out of space on a big part of the hat, that, you know, the small part might be a little bit too baggy. So just ruffle it up here and there just so that it lines up properly. Hope it keeps you warm, this hat, and I hope that you've found this video very useful. I'm going to have to go now, but please subscribe to the channel and check out my other videos. I've got a lot more projects coming. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. I forgot to mention, I'm going camping next weekend, so the next video is probably going to be using this hat on that camp, and we're going to be doing all crafts and things on camp, and we're going to be looking at my tent and things like that. So we probably won't be having a craft day in the house as such for a week, but we'll get out in the woods. I haven't been out camping for a while now, and I need to get out.
So yeah, see you later.